What the f? Okay, so I'm trying with a microphone today. Hopefully I'm not blowing your ears out on this part 2 video of the Jaguar. I hate to even call it a rebuild. This is such an easy repair. But hey, I'm not complaining about that. This should be done in just a few minutes here. So you can see, as I showed in, oh wait a minute, I guess the video is going to start with when I strip the car down. I don't know. If you know what, I think it's better it starts here. And now I'm going to cut to me stripping off the fender, headlight bezel, bumper cover, explaining how I did that. So let's go take a look at that. Tomorrow I've got to go to Largo, Florida, because it's the only junkyard in the state of Florida that has a correct color. There's only one white paint color for these XJ, 90s Jaguars. Thank God for that, because you can't tell in the pictures at the time. You drive all the way to the junkyard, it's one shade off. So it's like Splendrift white, some weird color. They've got one. Beautiful shape, the body. The fender, it's a 99, so the bumper's a little bit different. I prefer this bumper, which if you can pan the camera over there. So I've got the bumper off. So here's your structural impact bar. You can see obviously was unaffected in this accident. I could tell just by the pictures, but good to see for sure that it was unaffected. But underneath it, you don't have to bring the camera down, but there's several holes where push pins go in. So I took those out, and right away the bumper was pretty loose. You can see there's zero structural damage to this vehicle whatsoever. I thought maybe this would be a little impacted. Nothing. And I imagine the story will be the same underneath this fender. And that's the next thing I'm taking off. And the reason I'm doing all this right now out here in the dark, I got tied up today. I couldn't work on this during the day. It's a day after I bought this. Bought on a Friday. Today's Saturday. Again, tomorrow I'm driving 4.5 hours to Largo. I want to be efficient when I get there. And at least doing this tonight, I'll know. Again, I'm not taking the bumper they have. I don't like the way it looks. I don't know, maybe I'll take it. It's like 50 bucks. Maybe I'll take it just so I can button this thing up and do the rebuilt inspection and it's done. I could even use this bumper, realistically. If I heat this up, I can get this plastic. I mean, there's gonna be a little crack, but you won't see that when the reflector's back in. I can reuse this bumper. I prefer the look of this over the later one. And it's got a little bit of damage. Yeah, like there's a crack right here. You're not gonna see that. So I can even reuse this bumper if I wanted to just get the rebuilt inspection done. So we'll see. I guess I'll decide tomorrow, because I'm gonna have to take the bumper off at the junkyard to get to, this is why I took it off. I guess I could have just pulled it back, but these two 10s right here, which are holding the fender on here, and then there's 4 up here, which obviously super easy. So I've got those off. I got I got to do those 2, and then I imagine, like most cars, there's going to be some bolts either somewhere in here, or some cars will have them right in the pinch weld. I don't see that here. I hope it's not underneath this rocker, because that doesn't seem like it just comes off. Or maybe I gotta pull the, actually, I think I already found it. Yeah, so it looks like I'm gonna have to get the car off the ramps, turn the wheel out of the way, and then if I pull back the wheel liner, I should be able to get to, I imagine there's a few bolts here, and then this should come off. And then I'll know exactly what I have to do at the junkyard tomorrow, what tools I have to bring in. I'll have to bring in my giant toolbox. So that's why I'm doing this now, even though it's out here in the dark. But so we'll tune back in a minute. I think I should have this off in just a few minutes. And then again, tomorrow I'll get that fender, might get the bumper. Most of you probably like the newer bumper better. I like things more square, boxy, which is what this is. And I want it, going all the way to Largo because I want a white fender. I don't want another color. I don't want to have to paint and blend. The whole car needs to be repainted at some point, realistically. So I just want to throw a white fender on here. It's going to look good enough. and you know, someday repainter. I'm waiting till you guys see what I got at the junkyard. Another junkyard today for the interior. Gonna change the whole car, but we're not gonna do that right now. So let me go ahead, finish off taking this fender off, and I'll show you guys what it looks like when it's stripped down. All right, so I've already got the car stripped down, and it's the best case scenario. There's zero damage to any of the structure here. Nothing, not even the slightest kink of any of this. You can see from the bottom up, nothing was damaged. I figured as much from the pictures, but you never know what happened behind the fender, you know what I mean? But obviously it made no contact whatsoever with the structure. That's great. So literally all I have to do is get another bumper, another fender, and just slap it on. Everything's gonna line up right. And to remove the fender, so there is 1, 2, 3, the easy ones, 4 10mm bolts in the top. It's all 10mm holding this thing on. You get 2 in here, which, you know, I guess now looking at this, I could have got to these just by pulling the wheel liner back. I didn't have to take the whole bumper off, but I wanted to take all the damaged parts off and get a look at what's really going on. So, but at least tomorrow I know I don't even have to touch the bumper there if I decide not to pull it. So 2 10s here, and then come over this side. Again, you pull your wheel liner back, and there was a 10 here, and then my ratchet, I got my little Milwaukee, the electric ratchet, perfect for this job. Whoa, perfect for this job, because I pulled this back, hit the 10 here, and then I went this way, and I stuck it in. There was just enough room. You can see how tight it is. Just enough room to buzz out 1, 2, and then it still wouldn't come off. And let me show you why. If you look here, they had like a, thank you very much, camera lady, that beautiful fender. They had a little bit of sealant here, like panel bond. I also had to undo, there was some Torx here, like T20s. Pulled it, you can see where the sealant was. And so this all pulled up without any effort whatsoever. I guess just from age, the bond failed, but it was still pretty well bonded here. And so all I did was I just got a razor blade and gradually worked my way through enough where I was able to remove the fender. And honestly, because this fender's trash, I could have just yanked it off, but I was practicing for tomorrow so I don't booger up the replacement fender. But again, you can see this was panel bonded or whatever, some sort of adhesive. So now I know for tomorrow, you know, if I just work my way around with a razor blade, I don't risk. It's not so much about bending this, it's more about if you're pulling on this too hard, you can end up kind of pulling this out of shape a bit, and then the fender's not going to be flush with the door. So yeah, here's the damaged fender. I mean, really, if I wasn't so particular, I could probably just mallet this back out. Wouldn't be perfect, and whatever's not perfect, just fill it with some filler. But you know, nice Sunday drive over to Largo. I'll get a beautiful fender with no problems. Won't get the bumper cover unless I decide to go modern. I don't like the 99 bumper cover. This one, to me, way cooler. One more thing to show. You can see this is the bezel, which was damaged, obviously. No damage to the actual headlight mounting plastic here, which is great. But this headlight was broken, you can see. That's why this headlight was pointed down with a lazy eye. So I'll get another headlight at the junkyard. You get a Phillips there. I love these Jaguars. Use a lot of Phillips screws, which is just, you know, you've always got a Phillips screwdriver on you. Instead of, oh, I need that particular Torx, which is the case here. It looks like a T25. 2 of them through the grill. And that looks like that would take off, because there's nothing down here. That would remove this bezel. I don't see or feel anything else. I guess that's all it needs. The hood does not have any damage whatsoever. There's a little scuff on this corner, but there's no damage to the actual shape. When the car was hit, the fender was pushed under it, but not enough to actually deform the hood. This car, Lord willing, I make it out there and make it back, this car should look new again tomorrow, as long as you don't look at it too close. So we'll see you then. All right, and welcome back. So here we are. I now have the parts. Again, I wanted to take them off before I went to the junkyard, so I knew exactly where everything was in terms of fastening hardware, so I could just be boom bang in and out of the junkyard. And that's exactly how it went, and I got everything I needed and then some. So not so much for the Jag, but for other cars. So you can see here, this is the broken bezel that goes around the two headlights. Here is my replacement from the junkyard. It was like 10 bucks and it's white, so I don't have to paint it. And I just noticed there's still a chunk of the headlight assembly on there I'm gonna have to pop off. Also got a replacement headlight. Also got this. This is the bracket that holds this corner of the bumper. You can see this one was damaged in the accident. And the car that I pulled these parts off of happened to have a replacement one. You can see it with the Land Rover / Jaguar part sticker on there. That's pretty cool. So it's as if I went out and bought a brand new one. Got to throw that on too. So I will tune back in a few minutes. I'll show you step by step as the pieces go back on. This is, again, really simple. Now I'm going to try to morph the bumper cover back into shape. They did not have the correct bumper for this car. It was a later one, and I don't like the way it looks. So I'm going to use the slightly damaged bumper cover for now. All right, so just a couple developments here. First of all, here is my replacement fender, and there's a couple minor scuffs on it that I'll buff out, and it's dirty obviously, but it's really as good as you could hope a junkyard fender to be. There's no dings. There was a chrome trim piece that went there. You can see I took it off. There's still a lot of this mucky appearance left from where the 3M tape was. I'll get that off at something, but I want to get this damn thing on the car, so I'll deal with that later. I switched over my marker light here from the old fender. You can see like there's a weird paint thing going on around that. I think this fender has probably been repainted, which is perfect because it should hopefully match my car, being that my car has had paint work. It's hard to say. It doesn't have checking, but it has a weird aged appearance. So I think it's gonna be a very good match. The pinstripe is different and it's higher. So again, I'm gonna have to restripe this fender. So a couple of things. I bought a headlight and I pulled it real quick because it was easily accessible when I had the fender off and the bezel. I didn't really look at it to see that it's a different style headlight. It's the same shape and size, but the lens is different. This is the one that was damaged, and what I should have done with it all along I've done. But you can see older style. This is more clear, and I could have switched all the headlights, I suppose, but I prefer the older style. It's correct to the car. I was just going to then switch over the plastic piece to this lens. Again, the plastic was damaged on this one, but it's completely different, as you can see. And then it's missing the socket for the bulb. What I ended up doing, and what I should have done all along, is I just super glued on the broken piece back on. I didn't realize the damage was that minor. I never really looked at it. I just saw it, the headlight was clearly damaged in some way, and said, oh, I'll replace it with one at the junkyard when I get the other parts. So I'm just letting that cure. And then for the bezel situation, so this is the original bezel. You can see it's missing half of it, and you can see how it tapers off here. This is the way it is. And I didn't notice when I pulled the one off of the later car, the 99, that all these parts came off of at the junkyard, that it was a little bit different. It had this piece sticking this way, and I guess the grill is smaller on the later cars. It doesn't go all the way down. And so when I put the bezel on the car, I said, oh, wait a minute, what's going on? Why is there a white thing sticking out this side, not the other side? Then I noticed the difference. I took it back out of the car and I just sawzalled off this. Someone's going to say they would have used some special ridiculous plastic cutting tool their grandfather has that nobody else has. This is fine. You're really not going to see that because, again, the grill goes like this, but I was seeing the white thing sticking out over here. So now it should look good. As far as I can tell, they're the same otherwise. There's a slight difference in the design there, but I don't think you're going to notice that. All you're really seeing is this portion, which appears to be identical. So I had to improvise a bit, especially when the parts aren't exactly from the same year car. Now I'm going to go ahead, go put my modified bezel on, my repaired headlight, and then the fender. I've got the fender on, as I showed earlier in this video. Really easy, just several 10mm bolts holding it in. And I think I did a pretty damn good job with the gap. I mean, it's kind of hard to screw it up, but that's exactly how it is on the other side. I mimicked it. Now you can see there's definitely a slight color difference, but again, this door has been repainted. This fender looks like it's been repainted on the car it came off of. So there is a slight difference, but overall, I think it doesn't look too bad for now anyway. And again, when you come over to this one, pretty stark difference. That's why I'm not horribly worried about the fender being slightly off the color, because you could see a big difference just right here, door to door. Every panel on this car, some are hazy with clear issues, some are repainted. So the whole car is a mismatched situation. But again, I think I did pretty good. It was the only white fender in the state of Florida. I drove over 4 hours each way to get that fender and a bunch of other parts for other cars. So it wasn't just for the fender, but you can see fender gap just as it is on the other side. There's a ridge at the top where it's not perfectly flush, but that's how the other side is. I matched it. You really can't get it in anymore if you wanted to anyway. I tried. I don't know how dirty this fender is compared to the rest of this car, so it may be a little bit better of a match when I wash it. You can see it definitely is dirty. That's all filth, not paint issues. And then the bezel and the headlight in the front, put those in too. You can see there's a bit of a gap there that I don't have on this side. And you can see I can't really move the bezel over anymore. It's already bottomed out there on that light. Although I might have to make some adjustments on that light. Maybe when I do, I'll get a little more of a gap and I can slide this bezel over more to close that gap. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to heat up the bumper cover. I'll take you over there right now, show you the issue with it, show you what I'm trying to do. Okay, so here's the bumper cover, and it's got a few issues, and ultimately I do want to replace it. But again, until a white one comes in that's period correct and not a later one, it'll have to do. You can see when it was hit, all this plastic bracing here was broken. There's a big chunk of it missing. This side, ironically, too, I think that was just my fault, removing it and not knowing what the hell was even holding it on, and I broke it. So I got problems there. So the bumper is probably not going to attach perfectly, but hopefully I can just make it work for the time being. And of course the indentation here. So what I intend to do, I've had this out in the sun for hours. That's not going to cut it, obviously. I'm going to heat it up with a heat gun and try to push it out. I shouldn't have too much of an issue doing that. I am going to take this chrome trim piece off to make this plastic easier to move and push back into shape. And I'll just bend that back into shape for the time being. You can see the tape line there. I hear one of my cats. Sir Gray, what's going on, bud? So again, this car has had paint work all over it before. Well, let me see what I can do with this thing. Hopefully I can throw it back on the car and we can conclude this part of the video.
And here she is, everybody.
Comment if you know the reference.
Although I will say, as good as she looks now, I don't quite think she's Specialty Motor Cars material. I guess I just gave it away, the reference there. But take a look at my beautiful $375, well, with fees, $600. And then with some junkyard parts, what did I spend? I'm about $700, a little more than that, but not to do the repairs. I bought some extra goodies for this car that I'll show you guys in part 3 when I actually detail her. That's the thing. I'm looking through the camera here and she looks pretty damn good, but take a look at the wheels if you don't believe me. I have not washed this car. I have not cleaned it in any way. The rain helped clean some of the Copart dirt off, but still need to do a full detail on this car, especially really focus on those wheels, getting those wheels to shine like new again. That'll be for part 3. So let me point out something that some of you might have already noticed, which is here. So as I mentioned several times in this video, I wanted to make this bumper work for now, and with the intent to find a replacement white bumper. Even if I have to get another color bumper and paint it, I'd rather paint a bumper cover. It's easy off the car. Because if I got a black fender, for example, and I wanted to paint that to match the car, well, first of all, if I'm going to pay somebody to paint a fender and do it right, really the only right way to do it is to paint it, is to blend down the side of the car. But then we have the issue of that driver's door. You can really see it now. Actually, the thing that sticks out is the driver's door. You can see it's a brighter white. The fender actually matches the original paint in the car perfectly. So maybe this fender wasn't repainted in the donor car. There's just a weird, you can see like a circle around that marker light there. I'm looking through the camera lens now, and you can see, again, the only thing that really sticks out to you is that door, which has been repainted or re-cleared. Again, who knows, who cares? The hood, I believe, has been redone too, but you don't really notice the difference so much with the hood. You notice it on the side of the car. So, what was I getting on with that 20th paint tangent? Oh, if I had gotten another color fender and didn't make that several-hour round trip to get this white one and had it painted to match the car, now you're talking a lot more expense because you're gonna have to blend the whole side of the car. I wouldn't pay somebody a couple $100 to paint that fender right, and it's not gonna match the car unless I blend. This fender was $50, and I'd say it looks damn good enough for a under $1,000 20-something-year-old car. So I'm very happy with the way the fender looks. The bumper, I think, looks very presentable for now. The one thing I was pointing out, again, I did a little kind of redneck repair. This is my former used car dealer, cheap used car dealer self coming back out into practice. These are the things I used to have to do back in the day to get a car sold, get it down the road. You know, when someone's buying something for a couple grand, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you don't want it to have a smashed up bumper either. So I would do things like that, you know, heat them up, push out the bump, hit them with a rattle can. I did this kind of as a joke. I cut a piece of orange plastic, stuck it in. That marker light's missing. I don't have that light. It was missing when I got the car. And of course, when I went to the junkyard, that was a 99, so it has a totally different marker light in the bumper. So I will get an actual marker light at the very least, if not a whole other bumper, hopefully soon. I'd like to hold out for a white one just for the ease of throwing it on here and it's done, and not having to either pay someone to paint it or paint it myself and prep it and all that. But certainly, if I had to pick something to have painted or paint myself, I would rather it be the bumper cover, because on the fender, for example, if I got a black fender, well, the inside of the fender would have been black as well. So now I got to paint that, or else when you open the hood, you're going to see the mismatch. Whereas the bumper cover, you can paint just the exterior of the bumper cover and the rest doesn't matter. I'll be keeping an eye out for a white bumper cover. Some of you might have checked, said, Al, I checked Florida. There was other white Jaguar XJs in junkyards around Florida. I called them all. None of them had those cars anymore. It was only the U-Pull way over in Largo that had the white Jaguar they had just got in recently, where I got the fender from. And you can see, as I showed earlier, I repaired this headlight with super glue. There's the bezel that I modified. If you really look in the grill, you can see where I did the cut. I probably should have cut it back a little bit more, but obviously, as soon as you step back from staring directly into the grill, you don't notice it. I think she looks very presentable, and honestly, if I had a marker light where that piece of orange plastic is, it would probably pass a rebuilt inspection the way it is right now. But I'll wait until I get the replacement bumper. I'm in no rush necessarily. And I do, again, have some other things I'm going to be doing to this car in part 3, just to make her that much nicer. You can hear her just purring away, running great. By the way, I noticed that it's probably not a good idea for me to use a mic. I was using just my iPhone headset, and I tend to project pretty loudly when I speak, and I had to turn the volume way down on that clip. The previous few clips you guys just watched, so I wasn't blowing your eardrums out. So sorry about that. I know the audio's not that great. Probably isn't that great right now either. Working with my iPad right now, as I said. I've got to replace or repair my iPhone. The new iPhone just came out, the 15. My girlfriend's buying one, and I want to see how I like it. And then I may just replace my 12 with the 15, or have mine repaired, depending on how severe the repair is. It's got several issues. I know some of you are anti-iPhone. I'm not a tech guy. It's simple and easy to use. That's why I stick with it. I know it's a very mediocre piece of technology compared to the other offerings out there. So, what else can I show you? That's really it. Again, this was a really simple repair. This beauty saved from the junkyard. I imagine I was probably bidding against the junkyard when this was on Copart. So, and she still has so much life left in her. You see, you're looking from here, and the match looks perfect on that. Very, very happy with that fender overall. And you can see the gap came out pretty damn good. It's a little bit tighter at the front, but it's the same way on the other side of the fender hood gap on the passenger side. So I guess that's just the way it is. And let me just show you guys the odometer on this, because what's funny is Copart had it listed as having 81,000 and change miles. And they were looking at this, and it looks like an 8 and a 1 there, but what that actually says is airbag. You can see these screens, they burn out in these Jaguars with the heat. It's a pretty common issue. But when you press the odometer button over here, it's hard to make out in the camera, but I can see with my human eye, 70,900 miles exactly. So 10,000 less miles than Copart thought. 80, 70,000 miles, still low. No complaints there. But definitely a pleasant surprise to find out I had even less miles than they said. So anyways, guys, thanks for watching. Part 3 will be out this weekend, where I do the cleanup and install the extra goodies I got for this car. Maybe I'll have even more at that point. So thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for part 3 this weekend.